But just sit there and think about this for just a minute. You and your party of traveling companions are heading from Orlane toward the coast. You're about a day's travel time away from Kryler. Here you intend to get employment guarding trade barges heading toward the Salt Marsh Dock District. Your party stops to help this hopeless old woman who just happens to have a broken wheel on her caravan wagon. When you're finished, she gives your party a couple of fresh baked pies and a couple of homemade trinkets as a way to say thank you for your heroic deeds. She then inquires as to where you're heading, while she helpfully brushes the dirt from your cloak. Without thinking, you tell her, "Ma'am, we're going to Salt Marsh to seek employment. We hear the shipping merchants are in need of help this time of the year, and we can get paid fairly well." She grins and then points you in the direction of what she claims to be a shortcut. Save you a couple days travel time. She then states that this will bring you in through the merchant district of Kryler. Several hours pass, and a familiar smell triggers your childhood memories carried in on the breeze from the east. Later, as you're following a cornfield, you begin to feel that you're being followed, or maybe even watched. You're not really quite sure which one it is, but it makes you begin to feel very uncomfortable. Your traveling companions are joking around and suggest, hey, maybe you're just in need of a good night's rest. After all, it had been since Orlane that any of you have had a warm bed or home-cooked meal to speak of. You're thinking, I see movement across this field. Maybe it could just be the early evening sun as it's dancing across the tassels as it begins to set slowly behind you. Then, like a piercing cry of pain over in the shadows, you hear a shrill sound. Just at that same time, a murderer crows quickly take to flight, as if they're being summoned by death himself. Immediately the hair on the back of your neck begins to stand up, and you have a frightening chill that runs down your spine, as if someone or something had just walked over your grave. Your mind and your senses are now on full alert, as are your companions, which have finally started to take notice that you might just be right. Then, like as if it was from a nightmare, or even worse, out of nowhere, standing directly in front of you and your party, paralyzing you with fear. It has horrific glowing eyes that feel like they're burning right through your very soul. Greetings to everybody out there in the YouTube multiverse. Rod here. Hey, as you know, I started playing Dungeons & Dragons back in the summer of 1978, and I was instantly hooked. Now, back in September, we started presenting for you our top 10 list of the scariest D&D monsters, as we and our viewers have ranked them. Today's monster is no different. This is one of my favorites, and has had several requests from our subscribers. First appearing in the Fiend Folio, it has been the mainstay in D&D for unbridled autumn terror. I present for you my review of the horror of horrific monsters, the Scarecrow. The Scarecrow is one of the most feared monsters in the game, and there's good reason why. Unlike most monsters, the Scarecrow is a medium-sized human construct, but not like none other we have covered yet. Brought to consciousness by hags during the harvest season, they bind the soul of evil beings, spirits, or even demons to the silent watchers of the fields. Made simply from a variety of materials, which include a stick frame bound by hemp rope or twine, covered with either rags, cloth, or even burlap sacks. His head is then stuffed with straw, with holes cut in it to resemble eyes. Sometimes a gourd or a pumpkin is carved with a menacing, frightening, grotesque face gouged into its flesh. Once the necessary elements, roughly say around 8,000 gold pieces worth, have been gathered, the binding ritual takes place, and the Scarecrow is now bound to its creator. This must be performed by a hag of at least 6th level. Unfortunately, they have no memories of their prior existence, so their minds are like that of a newborn babe, and they can only understand the language of their creator, for they are mute. For this, some Scarecrows have even been known to get revenge for those who have dispatched their creators. That was sort of like a dog who was raised by a hermit alchemist to guard his shack, or in this case, a hag in our belongings. It only knows to protect and defend against trespassers and do what its owners will. Without wavering, watching ever so silently, the Scarecrow tends to its post, ever waiting for its intended victim or victims to cross its path. Found mostly in grasslands, Scarecrows are neutral and require no nourishment of any kind. Its sole existence is to exact the carnage that its evil creator commands from it. Having both low light and dark vision, with no intelligence to speak of, the Scarecrow is a one-man or one-entity killing machine, which runs purely on gut instinct. With its claws, which are designed solely to slash and disembowel, while their victim stands there completely paralyzed with fear. Before even engaging in melee combat, Scarecrow will cast Fascinating Gaze upon one of its victims. This will cause the victim to stare with utter fascination at the Scarecrow, as long as the Scarecrow is within the 300 required feet of the victim, or until the victim is attacked, which the Scarecrow will then attack the strongest looking foe with a slam, knocking them prone and possibly even unconscious. The remaining targets in the party will then be randomly or maybe even systematically touched with fear, forcing them to make a saving roll against paralyzation or against their charisma, depending on which version of the game you're running. Fortunately for your players, they are offered the opportunity to make a saving roll each round based on their initiative plus their constitution modifier. For both of these spells, both Fear and Fascinating Gaze are ingrained in the essence of the Scarecrow through the ritual used for its creation. Now, for those who try to look for the silver lining in the horizon of the storm, one could say the Scarecrow has an unyielding loyalty and is very reliable. Also, they have a very hardworking ethic to a fault, making the Scarecrow the perfect companion for any hag who lives in solace or isolates herself from society in any way. To paraphrase what my wife Shirley said last week, the hag views itself as a superior being above all others. Kind of funny, that sounds just like the beliefs of the beholder. So, to summarize this, Scarecrows are neutral constructs created by evil through a laundry list of spells and components, ritualistically binding the soul of evildoers and or demons to the framework of the silent watchers of our autumn crops, with the sole intent of inflicting or exacting revenge, carnage, to the intended victim or victims of the hag that created it. Something I didn't mention about the Scarecrow: they are immune to all forms of cold-based or ice-based attacks. Your only real defense, or your party's real defense, in taking the Scarecrow down is fire, and it must be rained down without mercy. Then, your party will need to track down the hag who created the Scarecrow and destroy her. Hopefully, the hag isn't part of a coven, or you're in very serious trouble. Because like Shirley said last week, if any hag in a coven is a level 12 or higher. She can use special coven-only spells that are given to her when these hags come together. If you like our content, please share with others interested in Dungeons & Dragons lore, or the Dungeons & Dragons game for that matter. It helps us grow as a community. Do you have any adventures planned for this holiday season around Halloween? If not, I'm going to place a few links down below in our description area of my favorite print-on-demand or licensed PDF adventures, along with links to our reference material that you can find on DriveThruRPG. Using these links will help you navigate quickly to find adventures and manuals at no extra cost to you. When you use our links or purchase something through our link, we get a small kickback. As for our 5th edition materials, I recommend Wizards RPG Team on Amazon. I'm not sponsored or affiliated with these guys as of yet, but most of their books are currently about half off the cover price with free Prime shipping. That's where I order most of my 5th edition materials. On a positive, we almost have enough points through DriveThruRPG to get a print-on-demand copy of Ravenloft. And this is one of my favorite horror adventures from 1st edition, which I'm planning on doing a full review on next year sometime. It's also the inspiration, along with other Ravenloft modules released for both 2nd and 3rd edition, for the 5e release of the Curse of Strahd, which is an awesome standalone module in itself. For your convenience, here are a few links to a couple of our videos, which we've made. And like always, thank you for watching. Now roll damage.